How do you do, fellow web developers? A growing disconnect in December 19th, 2024. I had a whoa moment once when one programmer got genuinely baffled about the fact that a website somehow erases the history of requests from the network tab of Chrome DevTools. What? He was wondering what magic method was used to hide the communication. He hadn't realized the app was not a single-page JS application, SPA, and he actually wasn't aware there's another way to make web apps. I know we're not even done with the first paragraph, but I feel like this has been the entire point of me starting to stream programming, which is that I see this new wave of people coming in, and I see myself. Except for the only difference, I don't even want to call it JS brain rot, right? Like, I really don't even want to call it JS brain rot. I don't even want to call it any of that, because here's the problem. When you are brand new to computing, you just get thrown into some world of programming, and this is often web dev. And when you use web dev today versus, say, when I was a kiddo, you have so many products that wrap such a huge part of what actually happens underneath the hood. Because when I was first learning how to do web dev, you would start a PHP server that had my squeal. You know where this is going. You start the classic LAMP stack. Usually this was in the form of like XAMPP. And then you'd make a request and it would respond with HTML. And that's it. And so then as things progressed, as we got into these single page applications and all that, I had this whole model already built in my head of what's happening, how it's actually, like, how everything is working and why routes act a specific way, how you start a server and how you actually do all these things. Whereas like today's kiddos, all they get is they get like Next.js or some just giant framework, even Laravel, any of these giant frameworks. The thing is that the fundamentals are massively skipped whenever you use any of these frameworks. And I feel genuinely bad, because how do you understand the world when you start off right here? You have to backtrack so much information, and you actually create a huge, like a very distorted view of how the world works, and then you have to undo it. You know, because if you really think about it, page-based routing, it's actually not all that hard. You just simply start an HTTP server and you map out your file structure to the request structure. Like, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty straightforward to do. But to some people, it's complete magic, because they don't even have a worldview to start from, because they've only ever been in this world. I actually feel really bad about it, because there's so much context that you lose when you start off way high. Now, you could make the exact same argument. To be completely fair, you could make the exact same argument that when I started using Java and C++. Well, I wasn't using assembly. You know, I wasn't actually writing my own OS calling, memory allocation stuff, so I just didn't know how the operating systems works. It's true. It's absolutely true. Using these higher level languages allowed me not to have, it allowed me to be ignorant of how parts of the system actually worked. But where do you draw the line? Honestly, I don't know where you draw the line where it's okay not to, where you don't need to learn the fundamentals. How I generally go about attempting to learn the fundamentals of any part of computer programming is that I pick a layer of abstraction that I'm okay going with. And so let's just say that right there was going to be, say, a request and response model of programming for the web. And I build an application on top of this idea, and so whatever it takes for me to understand it, and then I try to go one level deeper. So that means I'm going to learn, how does HTTP work? How is this actual request and this response working? Now, I don't try to go all the way down to TCP or TLS or any of these other things that exist below this stack. I just try to go one level deeper. And that's generally how I approach a lot of problems. So that's why when I built my first little game that we're building right now, I actually wanted to do my own physics. I wanted to do my own rendering, because I just wanted to go out there and just try it. It's not like I'm actually doing all the rendering from the beginning and opening up a new window. Instead, I'm just using Canvas to do it all. But I just wanted to get that kind of initial exposure so I understand at least one level below where it is convenient. That's how I kind of go about learning things. And so the next time, if I really want to deep dive, then I'll go into rendering and I'll have to learn one level below whatever that is. I don't have to go all the way to the bottom, right? You don't need to understand the entirety of the stack. Just understand a little bit, right? And then try to expand it one level low. You learned CS, Brian. You went deep enough to be able to go deep one level below. None of that's true. There does not exist a world where, because I learned CS it somehow makes me okay to go one level deeper, and because somebody else did not learn CS or CS, that they're not allowed to go one level deeper. One level deeper is purely learned by motivation. If you think about it, you can do so much in a CS program, and you can pass, and you can go get a job, and you could effectively learn nothing. And that's because a degree doesn't make you smart. A degree doesn't make you a talented developer. A degree just gives you the opportunity to be exposed to a bunch of ideas and all of that. I'm not saying it's great or bad. I'm just simply saying it exists in that nature. And I've seen me and how do I put it? Me and a bunch of my classmates all went through the exact same program. And some of us didn't even go into CS afterwards because we couldn't get a job. And some of us went and got jobs and then excelled. And we all went through the same program. We all had the same teachers. We all had the same everything. So why is that? Well, some people didn't take it as seriously as, say, others. I took it very seriously when I was doing it. Let's see. The idea that each click actually makes a browser fetch a completely new page without any JS involved was alien to him. Yeah, I mean, it probably feels really brittle and very difficult and confusing, honestly. I'm not that old, right? 36 as of today. And I've been programming since 11. Okay, so yeah, 36, that means you grew up, you probably hit the lamp stack is what I'm assuming. The lamp stack, especially if you started at 11, you probably hit the lamp stack at some point. My first lines of code were written on an 2086 16-bit machine. There weren't too many modern computers in our small town at the time. So there are full-time developers today who started their journeys after I had a few years of dabbling in code. There are young devs who were born when I was 18 and had a few part-time jobs done. Yeah. There's a lot of talk about modern programmers not knowing how fast computers are. Do you know how much your computer can do in a second? Jonathan Blow's rant, Casey Moratori's how fast should an unoptimized terminal run? I remember all these. These are all really, really great, by the way. There are so many levels of rich abstractions on top of hardware and even the OS kernel. One can make some arguments to justify the obliviousness of someone who needs to develop a product feature in some web shop. I'm not talking about this today, but I do want to talk about abstraction levels. My growing feeling of disconnect gets fueled mostly by simply shifting notions. Some examples I've heard of people saying vanilla JS when talking about Node, or saying JS without frameworks when talking about React. The whoa moment from the first paragraph is another example. By the way, that is insane to say JavaScript without a framework, and you're also including React in that. And by the way, also the statement of saying vanilla JS is just, it feels crazy. Is it just me, or is just the term vanilla JS just kind of like an insane statement? Because it implies that it's almost implausible to create something without some sort of library, or that you have to use some sort of alternative language to just using JavaScript. Transpilers culture. Yeah, transpilers culture. How many people have actually written a full-blown apps with just slinging raw DOM APIs and making their own abstraction? It scares me how small that number may be. I mean, just for the good of your own education, you should do that. You should just attempt to do something, because you don't realize like how good that actually is. It is so dang important to do that at least just once. And then you realize that the world is like not that big. It's actually not all that scary. And then you go, oh, it's actually kind of easy. Oh, wow. This is kind of wild that I just reached for this, right? I'd rather start a video game from scratch. Well, it's the exact same thing. But that's like the exact same thing. If you've never tried to make your own small little game and you've only existed, say, in Unity, you may go, oh, wow, a lot of these things aren't as magic as I thought they were. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. I understand a lot more. Like, there's a lot of good stuff. It's like saying vanilla TS. I've seen the phrase vanilla TS, and that scares me when I hear the term vanilla TS. Okay? We've gotten into such a crazy world that the term vanilla TS can unironically exist. Okay? And the thing is that, by the way, I hope you guys understand that I'm not trying to dunk on anyone who falls in this category. I'm really not, because I fell in that category. I, at one point, said there was no reason to use anything but NetBeans, and Java was the best language in the universe. And this was during Java 1.5/1.6 days, okay? I'm just saying, we've all been there. It's just our different time periods we existed in. I existed in the Java days. And then guess what? I was using SVN, and I just said, hey, guess what? I don't need to use Git. SVN's, it's pretty much all the same thing. Just saying. I'm just saying, at one point I just said, hey, who needs Git when you already have SVN? It doesn't make any sense. I keep getting stuck in analysis paralysis. You just don't have to. Just pick something and go, right? It does not have to be the best. It never has to be the best. There is such thing as a best, and you don't have to worry about that. As TJ, my friend TJ, who just constantly makes fun of me, says, those are yacht problems. Picking the best is a yacht problem because you can just do that later when you have all the money in the universe, and then you can actually fix it for real. First, just build something, right? It's a yacht problem. You don't need to do that. Today, I watched an episode of Elite Heat. Oh, I saw that, the pilot episode of Elite Heat, a game show for developers. It's cool. I enjoyed watching it, but at the same time, it refueled the feeling of disconnect. First, it's meant for developers, not just web developers, but the categories are web standards, TypeScript frameworks, databases, computer science. Okay, exciting. Computer science. I know that one. I've heard that one. You can guess the frameworks is only about front-end web frameworks like React and Vue, and databases is about unspecified squeal format and also Mongo, classic Mongo, web scale. And there's a computer science question. Let's see, hold on. And then there's computer science. And one of the questions was, what's the main difference between array.map and array.4each? That is not a computer science question. In fact, I would not call that a computer science question ever. Unless, I guess, the only way you could make it computer science-y, which they don't, is that they don't even include, like, the runtime. What is the run in space time of array.map versus array.4each? Well, the runtime is n, obviously, so big O-N, but the memory requirements of map is big O-N versus the memory requirements of for each is not. It's O of 1. I guess that would be the only way one could possibly make it like computer science-y. This is a question about JavaScript. Like, this is what I would give a junior dev as just like a warm-up question. One thing I see that a lot of interviewers do that is completely incorrect is they start off with a super hard question when it comes to programming. Honestly, a good programming interview should be something like 2 to 3 hours long. I think this is just simply the best, because that way you can start off really simple. Just sum a list of integers for me. It gives the person a quick win. It gets some of the nerves out, because we all know the first 5 minutes are always going to be the most hard. So if you can just kind of clear the brain, allow it to do really simple stuff, often people can come out and actually do really, really well. And then just slowly make it a bit harder, right? Hey, can you traverse a linked list for me? Just show me you can do some basic operations. Okay, hey, let's do a quick binary search. Like, I just kind of walk through some pretty basic operations, and when they don't know, like, say, how to do binary search, I'm like, oh, this is really, really simple. Let's define a data type that looks like this, and we'll do it on a tree. And then if it's less than, you go this way, or if it's less than, you go this way. If it's greater than, you go this way, or the value's right here. And I can watch them go, oh, okay, we can learn this. And we just slowly ramp up into actual real questions such as async request queue. But we first start off with really, really simple stuff just so they can actually get, warmed up. And I tell you what, if you allow a longer interview time and a bit of warm-up questions, you're going to get such a better insight into an individual and their ability to learn, talk, communicate their ideas than you do just by walking in and be like, all right, we're flipping that binary tree. You need to sit down right now. I need you to get ready to invert something. And then, you're just going to lose like a quarter of people for no reason. I must say that I'm pretty disappointed that this is what they said is computer science. They must have had other ones that are actually computer science. This feels like a very JavaScript question. Sure, map is kind of a generic operation, but for each, and the kinds of answers are just assuming JS. Well, it's literally using the JS. It just makes me angry. Another question in the computer science was, what was the output of this code? const p, new promise, void, resolve, reject. That's not computer science. That's JavaScript. Brother, that's JavaScript. And the answer is 1. But how is that computer science? Perhaps this is an example of shifting notions. I was talking about pure JS, as well as abstract logic of resolution of non-trivial promises in TypeScript is such a niche, low-level concept that it's treated like as the science of computation. Man, that's emotionally painful. Okay, hey. That's emotionally painful. 2 unreachable lines of code. There's no unreachable lines of code here. Oh my gosh. People, stop. Okay, stop talking. Chat, I don't want to read you, chat. Chat, those are not unreachable. Those are not unreachable. It's just this thing resolves. Then this thing resolves again with the new answer. Then it attempts to reject, okay? Don't do this to me, okay? We're friends here. The question is presented on screen in the form of a screenshot from the JetBrains IDE. Is that JetBrains? I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think these are called inlay hints, and I think VS Code also has them. Is this JetBrains or is this VS Code? I actually don't know. I still use Vim. Could be Zed. It could be Zed. This looks like Zed also. I have no idea. Anyways, notice the hints in gray boxes. They are not part of the code, but a feature of the IDE. So we aren't even looking at the code. We're looking at its enhanced representation. One can argue that any programming is computer science, and yes, sure. But by this logic, the topic shouldn't even be among the categories. Web standards is also a computer science. It's a game show for web developer, computer scientists. Another computer science question was, which method removes and returns the last element of an array? I want to throw punch him. This is a JavaScript or web standards question. That is not a computer science question because that cannot be answered in computer science. That is a specific question. I did not actually watch this. I did actually get it linked to me. Elite Heat, I did get it linked to me, but I did not. I actually have not watched that. Yes, so they're looking specifically for pop, which is JavaScript, but that's not, hey, Brendan Knight, how do you remove an element from the front of an array? Shift. Well, then how do I add it to the front? Unshift. I swear that had to happen just like that. That's actually how you do it. I mean, sure, this is a fun game show where people eat spicy food for entertainment. It's probably not representative of job interviews or the way people think about programming, but I don't know. Maybe it is. Again, I'm not bashing them for making it, nor am I trying to be, actually, guy, these are anthropological observations, if you will. I say the theory of computation observations, if you will, not to be pedantic here. I always felt safety in coding. It was a comfortably logical, deterministic, and beautifully consistent refuge from the world of vague and ambiguous reality. I also felt a certain kinship to other programmers. It was my tribe. So I am worried about this feeling of disconnect. Let's see, a little bit. I don't want to become an old man yelling at clouds. What worries me even more is that when I see similar sentiment in comments, Hacker News, Reddit, etc., and blogs, very often goes way overboard, and I feel disconnect toward that side too. Someone would grumpily bash stupid JS frameworks and bootcamp devs while religiously proclaiming how everybody should just use Bash and Vim or something. It's all pretty fascinating. I mean, to be completely fair, I think you probably should just use Bash and Vim. I mean, just to be fair, okay? That's not a bad idea. Okay, so I think this is an amazing observation into the current time period we're in. And I think that whatever this experience is, whether you think this is good or you think this is bad, whatever this disconnect is that is slowly growing between people who had to use a computer before it was convenient and people who are now developing on a computer that is convenient, whatever this gap is that has been developing is the smallest it's ever going to be. From here on out, this gap is going to widen at an exceptional rate. And that is because we have this idea that every 5 years, approximately, this is an Uncle Bob-ism, so I'm not sure how, it can't obviously be true forever, but every 5 years, effectively, the pool of new talent is about the same shape as the rest of the talent. That means that this new group of people that are coming in will be on just the cusp of using AI to learn or just use AI to complete, which means that at some point, if you're in here for another 10 years, you are going to be so disconnected from new people because they only know how to use AI, and you grew up without any of that. The disconnect is just going to keep on growing. It's going to keep on getting larger, and it's going to feel really weird. Now, I can't say that one's right or the other. My guess is having a strong fundamental understanding of how everything works will always be a benefit to you, no matter what the AI is currently doing in the next 20 years. But that's just a meism. But this gulf of feeling disconnected from the other side is only going to grow. It's only going to keep on growing, and it's going to grow faster and faster and faster and faster. Anyways, so I just wanted to, I think this is actually a really great article, by the way. This was a really good article, and I think this really hits this weird spot that a bunch of people in the middle are feeling, where they feel disconnected in the sense, honestly, I don't actually care what you use, what language you solve most problems in. You get to reap the reward of the language you choose. So if you choose to use JavaScript for your ML project, your reward is that you're probably going to have to rewrite it if you actually have to use it under any sort of load, right? this is the beautiful part of the modern world, which is that you get to choose how you want to do things and why you do them. And some choices aren't all that great. But that's the thing, is I don't care that you get to do that. But I know that there is more previous generational thinking where there is just one completely solid right answer, and if you don't choose C, you're a dummy. I don't really connect with that either. But I feel completely disconnected from modern web dev. And this is why, by the way, this is why you don't see me do a lot of modern web stuff. Like, if you look at my channel, I don't actually have a lot of content surrounding almost anything that's going on in modern web, is because I find it like, my DB teachers told us to ask questions. We asked a question and he said, "That's a stupid question." Yeah, that's good. Good for you. Sometimes questions are stupid. Congratulations. You just learned how to toughen up a little bit. Use that and be tough, because you know what? The reality is the real world is going to be mean. It's going to be way worse. Like, you're going to go on Twitter and share your project that you put all of your heart and soul into, and people are going to absolutely dunk on it and say horrible things to you. Don't care what somebody else has to say. Like, it's good for you to practice the skill of being able to talk about what you think and stuff and have people say something negative. Like, it's a good skill to have. That's a stupid take. Your chat is stupid and I can ban you, so think about that one next time. QWERTY. Okay? I don't even like how you type QWERTY 4321. The name is the Primogen.